Hello everyone, welcome back to another session by K21 Academy. Today our expert trainer will be talking about architecture of Azure. So let's get into the video.
Architecture of Azure or ARM portal. Okay, this is what we are trying to understand here. This is the basic thing that we need to understand, how basically it works in the back end, what all things are involved. Once we'll understand that, then we'll understand how other services, related other services, will work under the hood. Okay, so if you guys, I'm not sure whether everyone is aware of this or not. So there was a portal. It used to be there, I think 5-6 years back, most probably more than that. I think 8 years back or something like that. It was called as Azure Service Manager or ASM portal. Okay, ASM portal. So it used to look something like this. Why I'm showing you guys this? Because it will be easy for us to understand why this ARM portal itself is there. Or we also used to call it as classic portal. So it used to look something like this. Okay, right now the portal looks, I think I have opened it. It looks something like this. Okay, so you will be able to find out there is a huge difference between this one, how it is looking, and how it is looking like this one. Okay, but there are other differences also apart from how it is basically looking. Okay, so let's try to understand that. So when this ASM portal used to be there, okay, where it went, fine. Okay, 1 second. One second, guys. Okay, let me just restart it. I was not able to see the cursor. Okay, coming back to the topic, I was discussing about Azure Service Manager. Okay, so when this portal used to be there were few basic, like there were few people who were having almost administrator level access. Okay, so there used to be something called as service administrator. These were these roles can be acquired by one user only at one specific point of time. So there used to be something called as service administrator, and there used to be something called as, I think, account administrator. Okay, this service administrator used to have 200 co-admins. Okay, and then how many people who are basically managing this ASM portal? 200 plus 1 plus 2, and this account administrator will be majorly focusing on cost management side of the things rather than access part of the things. This service administrator and other co-administrator, everyone, all these 201 people were having administrator level access on all the resources that were created, all the services that were created on Azure Service Manager. Okay, but how many people you have? In total you have 202 people who are managing whatever the services, whatever the resources that has been deployed on your Azure Resource Manager portal, which in production environment was not feasible. Okay, this ASM portal was more focused on service rather than the user or the customer or the client who is actually using them. Hence, there was a feedback that was given to Microsoft from the customers who were using it. And then what Microsoft has done, I'm going to remove this because this was just for understanding purpose. Okay. So what Azure has done, they have developed a new portal on top of this Azure Service Manager portal. Okay. A new portal was developed on top of this Azure Service Manager portal. And now we used to call it as ARM portal, the one which we are able to see when we log into portal.azure.com, which we also called as Azure Resource Manager portal. Okay. And how now we'll try to understand what are the different ways in which how we can access our Azure Resource Manager portal as of now. Okay. So let's try to understand that. So I'll create something like this, and this will be attached like this. So here, first of all is your portal.azure.com. After that, you have Azure PowerShell. Okay, let me use this one. Azure PowerShell. Apart from that, you use Azure CLI. Apart from that, you will use SDKs. When I'm saying SDK, software development kits like Visual Studio. And apart from that, you have REST APIs, which developers use from the software in order to communicate with services that are. So these are the major ways in which you can actually communicate with your Azure Resource Manager. Okay. And we are going to touch on all four of these, as it is not developer kind of course. So we'll not touch upon this REST API part, but portal.azure.com, PowerShell, Azure CLI, SDK, because I have one specific practical where I'll be using Azure, I'll be using Visual Studio in order to deploy a website to one of the service that is running on Azure. Now, what is this dot? Why I have created this dot? So this dot is your identity and access module, which is basically your Azure AD. So whenever you will try by either of these ways to communicate with Azure Resource Manager, then you need to authenticate yourself. Once that authentication will be done, you will be authorized with whatever the access, whatever the level of access that you must have in order to work on this Azure Resource Manager portal, which will be decided by the administrators. So you'll be using your laptop in order to communicate with Azure portal or ARM portal, let's say, by using any one of these options. Okay, so this is what that is there. Now, this Azure Resource Manager, Microsoft people call this Azure Resource Manager Jarvis. Have you heard about this word Jarvis? People who have seen Iron Man movie, they must be knowing about this Jarvis. Now, why I'm talking about this Jarvis, why I'm taking here, why that concept is coming up here, because what Tony Stark used to do, he just used to tell Jarvis, I want this, right? He doesn't tell him how you have to do that, what all things that you will involve in order to do that. Nothing. He will just tell him, Jarvis, I need my suit to be ready in next 5 minutes. And then Jarvis will perform all the steps in a specific manner so that his Iron Man suit will be ready in next 5 minutes, so that he will wear it and he will fly around, right? In the same way, once we'll go through the other services or the other concepts that we are going to discuss in Azure Resource Manager or in Azure, we'll be able to see this ARM portal is working like that only. Okay, so you will tell ARM portal, boss, I want this, and this ARM portal is the one who will be responsible to perform that action, and in a stepwise manner, which will help you to achieve, or which will help that ARM portal to achieve whatever you have asked for. You'll be able to see that. Okay, so that is the reason why they used to call them Jarvis. Microsoft people, they used to call them Jarvis. And this ASM portal, it's just a fun fact, they used to call it Red Dog Front End, RDFE. Okay, but that is now uh, people who still are running classic virtual machines in classic portal, which is also called as ASM portal. There are few customers which are running, but Azure is, or Microsoft is pushing them to move to Azure ARM portal rather than using the ASM portal. So they are going to, so they'll be decommissioning this ASM portal. So yeah, that is something that is there. Now, until now, I think things should be pretty much clear to everyone. Now, the concept of subscription will come up here. Okay, before okay, let's discuss about the subscription, where the subscription will fall into the picture. So here you have your subscription. Okay, so this is your subscription. All right, now this subscription, or any subscription that you will be buying in order to work on Azure portal, all right, you means who? This guy who will be part of Azure AD. This is the user which is representing you. So any subscription that will be inside your Azure AD tenant, I know that we haven't discussed about Azure AD tenant, but you understand it in this way, that once you will log into portal.azure.com, a tenant will be given to you, so that that tenant will be used as identity and access management solution for you and the subscriptions that you will be buying. Understand it in this way. As of now, we'll dig in more once we'll go through the Azure AD model, Azure AD specific model. So whatever the subscriptions that will be inside your Azure AD tenant will trust that subscription. Will trust that Azure AD tenant. Okay, so this subscription trusts Azure AD tenant. This is something that we need to keep in our mind, because who has bought this subscription, who is using this subscription? User, which is part of this Azure AD, is using this particular subscription, or the users who are going to get created and will be working inside this particular organization, which is going, who are going to be part of this Azure AD tenant in future. They'll be using this particular subscription in order to create, manage, and use the resources. So this is where the subscriptions will come into the picture. Now let's discuss about one very important concept. Okay, this resource manager will be connected to okay, just 1 minute. Okay, guys. will be connected to something called as resource providers. Okay. Resource manager ARM portal will be connected to something called as resource providers, or you can also call it as Azure resource providers. All right. These resource providers, name of these resource providers can be like this. Microsoft.compute, Microsoft.network, Microsoft.storage. Like this, Microsoft dot something other service. Like this, there are multiple resource providers that will provide the resources. Okay, we'll understand more about them. Okay, so basically resource providers are the one who are going to provide the resources, and who is going to request those resources? This user is going to request those resources. To whom it is going to request those resources? To ARM portal it is going to request those resources. Where those resources will get created? They will create it inside a subscription. But there is one more abstraction layer below subscription. Okay, what is this abstraction layer below subscription? So you have subscription. Okay, so let's understand in this. This is your subscription. Before creating any resource inside the subscription, the first resource, okay, listen properly what I'm saying. The first resource that you will be creating inside your subscription is called as resource group. Okay, it's a container inside which your actual resources will exist. But resource group is also a kind of resource, okay, which acts as a container for the resources that you will be creating inside your Azure subscriptions. So the first layer is subscription. Below that, there is something called resource group. Without resource group, you cannot create any resources. And just below this resource group, you have your resources. There is something that is left here, okay, under this particular picture that I have drawn regarding the resource provider, regarding the subscription and all of this. Before understanding that, I'm just moving away from that particular picture because I don't want you guys to see that picture because it will create confusion. Now, I want to create a virtual machine. Okay, I know this is something that we have a specific module for, but let's try to understand this concept, then only we will be able to understand the rest of the things that we are going to discuss. Okay, when you will create a virtual machine on Azure, so this will be your, let's say this is your subscription. Inside the subscription, you have your resource group. This is your subscription. This is your resource group. Inside the resource group, when you will create a virtual machine, people who have intermediate knowledge can answer this. When you will create a virtual machine, what all resources that will get created? If you don't have idea, then that's fine. I'm just trying to understand, or I'm just trying to get some answers from your end also.
So it creates virtual disk, the network interface card,
okay,
network what do you call it, resource group,
okay,
virtual network basically.
Okay,
then
yeah, that's what I was expecting. Yes.
Yeah. Your disk already mentioned.
Okay.
I hope.
Okay, perfect. That is more than enough. Okay.
IP.
Okay, that is more than enough. Let's try to understand. Okay. So before creating a virtual machine, a virtual network will get created. This is your virtual network. Inside the virtual network, your subnet will get created. So this is your VNet. This is your subnet 1. We'll discuss all these things in very detail, guys. Okay. Why I'm discussing this, you will get to know in next 5 minutes. You have VNet, you have subnet. Inside the subnet, your VM will get created. That VM will be attached to a NIC card, and that NIC card will be attached to an IP address. And your VM will also have data disks, DD, data disk 1, operating system data disk, OS disk. OS disk will be there. At subnet level, you will be having NSG, or you can have this NSG at NIC level also. So these things will be there. So what I mean to say here is, let me tell you. So here, resource group is the first resource that is going to get created. Virtual network is the second resource that is going to get created. Subnet is the third resource that is going to get created. NSG may be fourth, VM may be fifth, NIC may be sixth, IP may be seventh, data disks may be 8th. Apart from this, there may be some more resources that is going to get created. So there are multiple resources that are getting created. Are you guys getting my point? When you are creating a virtual machine, there are multiple resources that are going to get created. Now, coming back to this picture. So I don't think so I'll be able to add that one here, but okay. Now, when you will log into your Azure portal and you will tell your ARM portal, so you will open your ARM portal like this, and you will go here, create a resource, and you will go here, create a virtual machine, and a form will come up like this, and you will fill up this form 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the sections, and then you will click on review and create. All right. Where you are filling this form, you are filling this form at your portal.azure.com, which is basically your ARM portal. Now, what ARM portal will do? Now, this is how ARM portal basically works. So first of all, where this went? Okay. So first of all, your resource group will get created. Then VNet will get created. Here also same thing will happen, right? Inside that subnet will get created. Inside that VM will get created. Inside that data disk will get created. Inside that your NIC card will get created. Let me write it. NIC card will get created. Data disk will get created. But who is providing these resources? These resource providers are providing these resources. Okay, so this ARM portal will take your request via that form and will tell, okay, boss, this Azure Microsoft.compute resource provider, I need a virtual machine. So it will create a virtual machine. I need a network. So this will create a network like this, and it will also create your subnet like this. This storage will create your data disks like this. Okay, so in this way the deployment will happen. So this resource manager will talk to whatever the resource providers that will be that has to be used in order to deploy whatever the requirement that you have asked the resource manager to create on your Azure subscription inside any specific resource group. This Azure resource group will also be get created. So let's say this is that resource provider which will create your Azure resource group. Okay, so this is how your deployment basically works. So what is happening? Resource manager, Azure resource manager, your ARM portal is talking to something called as resource provider in order to create the resources on your Azure subscription.
So guys, if you also want to have a good job around Azure Cloud, then we have something really special for you. We have our absolutely free class on how to prepare for Azure Cloud jobs and certification. Under this interactive session, you'll be learning about top certification options in Azure Cloud, job opportunities, our 8-week roadmap to learn, get certified and get higher paying jobs. So if you want to register for the same, all you have to do is just log on to K21Academy.com/AZ-10402. You'll be seeing this kind of interface. Just click on book your free seats now, and after that select event date, add your full name, your email address, your phone number, and click on yes, save my seats now. Moving ahead, you'll be seeing this kind of link on the extreme right. You just have to click it, save it, and I'll see you in the free class. Till then, take care and keep learning.